Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk, the most fact-driven, unbiased, true crime channel. Thanks for joining us. Tonight is Tuesday. It is September 21st. Can you believe September is almost over? September 21st of 2020. And wow, we have a lot to talk about tonight. So, first, let's do a little bit of our introduction for people that maybe who haven't joined us previously. My name is Scott Reich. I am a practicing criminal defense attorney. Been doing this for 26 years. So I think I have an idea, and hopefully I've been able to articulate it as to what goes on in a criminal case, both procedurally and what the prosecution must prove and what the defense has to do as a defense in any kind of criminal case. We started this channel when that guy up in Weld County, not far from our offices here, Chris Watts, got in trouble, and we became so frustrated as to what was being done on the evening news that, it was basically suggested, hey, you should do this and see what happens. And here we are, right about 3 years later. I wish we were at like a bazillion, but we're at 189, what are we, 188, 189,000 subscribers, and we appreciate everybody who tunes in, who likes and subscribes our channel. If you haven't done so, please do so. And well, let's just get started to it. I hope everybody had a great week last week, great weekend. I had a pretty good weekend, I guess I could say. My son, as you all know, he's a pilot. He's in the Air Force. Anyway, he got relocated, moved to a new duty station, which was a lot closer than the previous one. So I was able to jump into Crime Talk 1, went down early Sunday morning to see him, help him move into his apartment, get what he needed, so to speak. And then I flew back, and the lovely Miss Kristen and I enjoyed the rest of the weekend together. So that was good. I got to see my son, who it was always so far away, but now in Crime Talk 1, literally just a few hours away. So that's good, and he's going to be there for at least the next 10 months or so. So I'm excited about that. Now, obviously, a lot of news going on in the press these days. At the end of the day, what's always on the news? Everything about crime. And the case that's obviously grabbing a lot of people's attention these days is the case of Gabby Petito and then her fiance/boyfriend, Mr. Laundrie. And that just is tough for me to say because it looks like Landry, but they pronounce it laundry. So we're going to pronounce it laundry. Apparently that's the way he wants it. I think now he just hopes they don't find him. Now, the question has become, has the young Mr. Laundrie, who now appears there's some evidence that people saw him slapping or hitting Gabby Petito, and obviously some, maybe one could even say manipulative, based upon the video that we've seen and the conversation that he had with the police. He doesn't get charged, but apparently these two lovebirds were not exactly getting along. Apparently life on the road showed that maybe they weren't as compatible as they thought they would be. You don't really know somebody until you've traveled with them, all right? I'm telling you, that's the truth. You don't know somebody until you've traveled with them. You get to see their quirks, what makes them upset, you name it. Well, needless to say, the FBI would like to talk to Mr. Laundrie, and as Mandy stated here in the super chat, dirty laundry. Yes, he's got some dirty laundry for sure. So Gabby Petito is basically reported missing September 11th by her mother, who hadn't heard from her. Then Laundrie shows up down in his parents' house down in Florida, and he has the van that belonged to Gabby Petito. He just happens to not tell anybody where Gabby may be. Oh, just decided to, I mean, what did he tell his parents? We don't know, right? And now we have Laundrie, who apparently, his parents believe, hey, what a coincidence. We haven't seen him either. We're really concerned for him. I don't think so. They weren't out there as far as I know. They weren't out there searching that nature preserve looking for him. Apparently they knew right where to find his car, and they went and picked it up, right? I find it hard to believe that he was going on a nature hike when he knows that the resources of the United States government, aka the FBI, has declared him a person of interest because his girlfriend, fiance, is probably, buried somewhere in a national park in Wyoming, and he's back in Florida and has nothing to do with it. He gets himself an attorney, and hey, he can wrap himself in the United States Constitution. The feds cannot talk with Mr. Laundrie without his attorney present, and any attorney worth his salt is going to say, don't make any statement. And that's his constitutional right to do so. The feds will honor that. They may say, you sure you don't want to talk? If they find him. Now the question becomes, did the parents give Mr. Laundrie a 3-day head start to get out of the state? Or did he wander off into the nature preserve, which, the FBI has said it is dangerous to be in? There's mud, there's water that's like knee deep, there's alligator, there's snakes. Not exactly the place. Maybe let him wander off in there and maybe let the gators get him. But obviously we can't do that because we have to prosecute the case. So while Mr. Laundrie is gone, the FBI, through their investigative techniques, tips from people. I think there was another YouTuber that said, hey, I think the van was over here. And they went back and looked. That YouTuber turned that information over to the police. And, so they're looking for Mr. Laundrie down there. And at the same time, they find what they believe to be Gabby Petito's remains. Family was notified that they found remains consistent, but they do the official thing and say, we are not going to commit in any way until we have an autopsy and we're able to confirm, right? Now the FBI, the Denver office, comes out and confirms that the body that they found is that of Gabby Petito. And Frank just put this up here on the screen. They confirmed that the remains of those are Gabby. How do you pronounce her little name? Venora Petito. Venora Petito. Date of birth, March 19th, 1999. Coroner Blue's initial determination for the manner of death is homicide. The cause of death remains pending final autopsy results. What does that mean? That means that obviously the rule in a homicide. What is a homicide? A death by the hands of another. The coroner obviously wants to make sure, see exactly what they can do in case they ever have to go to court and do this. So now the big question is, where is Mr. Laundrie? I mean, you would think, and I don't get this. I just have never understood this. And I'm sure Mr. Laundrie's mother told him, never, ever, ever hit a girl. Never, ever hit a woman. You just don't do it. I don't care if she hit you first. I don't care if she was getting on your nerves. I don't care. Okay? A society is judged on how the society treats their women and their children. And that's not to be, anything to say that they're less. No, it should be for out of respect. Out of respect. You just don't do it. And so, this guy who thinks he can, it's alleged, at least a 911 caller said that he saw Mr. Laundrie hitting Gabby Petito, and she was upset when the police arrived, when the Rangers arrived. And yet this guy doesn't have the guts to stand up and say, hey, I'm not saying a word, but here I am. Arrest me if you have enough, right? I'm not aware of any arrest warrants just yet, but I would anticipate that would be coming here rather shortly. It doesn't take, like oftentimes we have cases where, coincidentally, the last person to see somebody alive, in this case, Mr. Laundrie, left without his fiancée, the woman he was intending to marry, that they were doing a cross-country trip. They were documenting everywhere they went via social media, YouTube and Instagram. And yet here he is going back home and not telling anybody without her. I don't think that takes a whole lot of mental prowess to figure out something isn't right here, right? Then we have the whole consciousness of guilt. Why didn't he tell somebody? Even if he came back and said, you know what? Oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this. We had an argument. It got physical. She hit me. I don't know. I lost it. I hurt her. I'm so sorry. I'm throwing myself on the mercy of the court. He didn't do that. For lack of a better term, he ran. He ran all the way back to Florida. And now he disappears when he knows that everybody's looking for him. And I'm sure the FBI has pinged his phone. They're seeing if he's used a credit card of anyone in the family. I'm sure the weight of the United States government is coming down on the family as to see what they did. The family is going to have some issues possibly, because if it's determined that they helped Mr. Laundrie get away, knowing that he was, for lack of a better term, wanted, they could face some charges themselves. And frankly, they should be charged if they did, in fact, help Mr. Laundrie escape. My gut feeling is Mr. Laundrie was not out there trying to hurt himself, because if he was going to hurt himself, he would have done it maybe in Wyoming or somewhere along the way. This guy clearly has only one thing on his mind, and that is his self-preservation. And I'd be curious, when if we find him, maybe a gator got him out there in the nature preserve, or maybe he got away. Maybe he's in the Bahamas. Maybe he's on his way to a country where there's not an extradition agreement. I don't know, Costa Rica or something like that. And he will never be, they won't be able to get him back. We'll just have to wait and see. So obviously that's a case that a lot of people have been talking about today. If Mr. Laundrie comes forward, he has an attorney, police won't question him. He's going to have to get himself an attorney, more than likely in Wyoming, because the crime was committed, allegedly. Obviously, a crime was committed. The question is, will they be able to prove it against Mr. Laundrie? I think, it takes a little bit of common sense. What are the odds? What are the odds that Gabby Petito, going across country with her boyfriend, disappears? He's the last person with her. They've been having issues, and next thing she winds up, hidden, found deceased in the forest in Wyoming. Pretty sure. Going to be prosecuted in the United States District Court there in Wyoming. And I think it's not in, I think they have an office in a district court in Laramie. And I think there's also one in Cheyenne, like a little office as well. So, needless to say, assuming Mr. Laundrie doesn't get away or hurt himself, he'll be on his way back to Wyoming with the marshals. So we have that case. And then the other case that I think a lot of people are talking about these days, and that's this one. That's the one with old Barry Morphew. The 130 pages of writings from the officers in this case, the lead detective, chief investigator, Alex Walker, chief investigator. Now, the investigator in this case who drafted the warrant, he, when he's done with his police days, like oftentimes do, people can become novelists. Clearly, he spent a lot of time on this 130-page novel. Is that the best way to describe it? He certainly tries to connect all the dots. He clearly believes that Barry Morphew had something to do with it. And he is basically stating that, well, Barry Morphew said some inconsistent things. And therefore, he must be lying. Now, once again, you have a guy. We have got to give everybody the presumption of innocence. We'll give Mr. Laundrie the presumption of innocence. We'll give Barry Morphew the presumption of innocence because they are presumed innocent. An allegation has been made, but the allegation is not evidence. And some of the evidence that they rely upon to get an affidavit for the arrest warrant, a lot of it's not going to be admissible in court. Particularly, there's talk about the whole polygraph stuff. Okay, there's a lot of information. Barry Morphew talks. My God, and if there's ever an example, once again, I swear to God, I, as an attorney, tell people repeatedly, if the police are questioning you, unless you're literally just a bystander, you're standing on the street corner and somebody gets, run over and you're a witness to it, something bad happens. But if they think you're a person of interest. Clearly the police thought that they were a person of interest. They tried to befriend Barry Morphew, trying to get him to have these meals and hang out together. That's just not cool, man. But yet, Barry Morphew, he's got some great attorneys now, but God, for his sake, and as a defense attorney, you want to be able to say, will you go talk with somebody? Please go talk with somebody. They're going to tell you to shut your mouth. And after reading this 130 pages, one thing is clear. Had Barry Morphew kept his mouth shut and say, you know what? Hey, agents, obviously I want to do everything I can to find what happened to Suzanne. We're trying to do everything we can for her. My God, I miss her. I love her. But guess what? Talk to my attorney, right? His attorney's going to say, he's not talking. You got enough? Charge him. And they kept going back and talking. And it's like, he said something a little inconsistent. They interviewed the guys that he works out with and said, well, yeah, he's a very quiet guy. His mood changed. Well, geez, do you think maybe his mood changed because his wife disappeared? Maybe people think that he had something to do with it. That kind of stuff is not coming in at a trial. It's simply not coming in. And so, although, we have a case, once again, what are the odds that Suzanne Morphew got on her bike, ditched her helmet, threw her bike down a little ravine off a hill there near a bridge, and, packed up or went with somebody else, right? There's not, something obviously has happened to her. The question is, who is responsible? Well, the FBI had their little interviewer, and, like I said, Barry Morphew says at one time, well, she was a great person. And it appears as though this is still early on, and they said, well, he referred to her in the past tense. Well, obviously referring to her in the past tense, she must be dead. And you must have had something to do with it. Speculation. They can argue that if that comes in. But really, wow. This is going to be a kind of case, and this is the kind of case that probably will scare and keep the defense attorneys up at night, okay? Because there will be no plea bargains in this case. Trust me on. I mean, I don't see this coming. I don't see a plea bargain whatsoever coming in this particular case. Barry Morphew has staked his ground. He says he didn't do it. He's got family on his side, and he is not going anywhere. And hopefully that will lead into a good transition as to a lot of questions people had. Bond, okay? The court did not find that there was proof, evident, presumption, great, which simply means that the evidence is so overwhelming against Barry Morphew that he is a danger to the community and a flight risk. Therefore, a no bond hold is appropriate. The court said, I found probable cause because I had to. And guess what? It was Judge Murphy that signed the original affidavit for the arrest warrant. So do you think he's going to change his mind, so to speak, and say, well, it seemed a lot more powerful on paper than it did in person? No. And we've talked about this, and I don't want to rehash this, but for the people that don't know, the standard of preliminary hearing is simply probable cause. When a reasonable person believed that a crime was committed and that Barry Morphew may have had something to do with it. That's it. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The highest form of proof known in the law, not just here in the United States, but anywhere in the world. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is not a vague, imaginary, or a speculative doubt, but a doubt that would cause people to pause in matters of great importance to themselves. And maybe something will change. There's not a trial date set. I think what they said, was it March or something? For his trial. Maybe it was May. I'm sorry, I got the dates mixed up there. I think it's May. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Because unless something changes, I mean, you got to tell me there's something more. You got to tell me there's something more. And I don't know Barry Morphew. I don't know anything about his case other than what I've read in the affidavit here from the preliminary hearing. I did not personally attend. Julie from our office did, and she took copious notes about it. And so, I don't know. But this is one of the scary cases. Why? Because this is the kind of case where, there's some evidence that he did it. What if the jury says, what are the odds? What are the odds that Barry Morphew, just happened to get up in the morning on Mother's Day and take off early and go to Denver to do his job? What are the odds that, he just thought that there was no issues in the marriage? Clearly that was the case, but yet he tells the police. Maybe he just gets caught in enough inconsistencies. I don't want to say lies, but guess what, ladies and gentlemen? People lie. How was your marriage? Well, my marriage was good. Yeah, trying not to share his dirty laundry with everybody, even if the, fact is it's not good. And his wife is obviously moved on, so to speak. And, the new boyfriend, who's married with like 6 kids, he has a rock solid alibi. Why would he do it? I mean, it seems like the guy that would kind of have the urge to maybe do it would be, a guy that's maybe had enough. His wife's gone through multiple bouts of cancer. He alleges in the affidavit that she has a drinking problem, a drug problem, and he thought the marriage was great, but yet he sounds like a pretty jealous guy. He looks like a weightlifting guy. I don't know if he's like just a gym rat meathead that, maybe juicing it with a little roids. Who knows? Maybe he's a little on edge. Or maybe just the nicest guy in the world and he had nothing to do with it. I don't know. But guess what? A jury could find either way in this particular case that he was responsible for the disappearance of Suzanne Morphew. Now, the one thing you have to wonder, though, is will they find a body? Will they find a body? Apparently it's quite the popular thing out here in the West to bury bodies in parts unknown. And Frank. And we got Frank behind the glass here. The hardest working man in show business. Frank, when we flew to Idaho, were you looking out the window?
Yes.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
What did you notice about when we flew over northwest Colorado, Wyoming, and into Idaho when we landed there at Idaho Falls, Idaho?
There's a lot of land.
There's a lot of land out there, isn't there?
A lot.
A lot of land where somebody could bury something. You don't even have to bury it because all the animals in the woods would devour it and carry away the little bones and what have you. And everybody thinks apparently you drop a body somewhere, no one's going to be able to find it. Well, unless of course they, probably took their cell phone to the site, which most people do these days. And I'm certainly not condoning anyone taking a cell phone to a burial of a body. All right. I am not suggesting that. What I'm saying though is the amount of information that they can gather from one's little phone. I'm telling you, most people have no clue what they can determine from this. Basically, anything you do, anywhere you go, it is all stored in this phone. Now, if it's your phone, they got to know what they're looking for. They can't just get a warrant and say, let me do a Celebrex search/dump of your cell phone and just go rummaging through it. That would be a general warrant. That is prohibited. So they have to be very specific. Say, you know what, we're looking for information we believe is there. They have to actually know what they're kind of looking for, right? They have to have a good faith basis, probable cause to believe that they know what they're looking for and that they're going to find it. And that the information that relying upon that it's there isn't stale. And then they get into the phone. But once they get into that phone, if they can search it properly and they do it correct, and I'm sure the FBI is going to dot their I's and cross all their T's and certainly wouldn't do anything that would violate anybody's constitutional rights because we wouldn't want that. But there is so much information in that cell phone. My guess is that is probably what led them to the specific area where the FBI has now stated that they have found the remains, and the coroner has determined that it is the remains of Gabby Petito. Okay, so we get there. Let's jump back to Barry Morphew. Bond, $500,000 bond. Okay. Show of hands here. Show of hands. If you were arrested and had to post a $500,000 bond, who could do it? Raise your hands. Go ahead. Let's see. Raise your hands. Okay. I see a couple of their hands, right? That's a lot of money, right? And let's face it, Barry Morphew sold his house there. I don't know what his financial situation is. Apparently there were some bank accounts. Apparently there were some stock trading accounts. Apparently, the Morphews, they did okay. I mean, they were living in that big old house, worth some money. Apparently somebody's family has a ton of money, because we showed you the video just the other day, old Barry Morphew walking out of the Chaffee County detention center there. I think that was his mom that was there with him. And then his daughters escorting him to a big Ford, like F-350 pickup truck. I don't know where that is. And he obviously had his GPS monitor hooked up to him because that was a condition of bond, that he be on the GPS. And he can't leave the county. And I'm telling you, I have never seen a judge impose a restriction that he cannot leave the county. Unusual. Never seen that at all. He can leave the county for two things. One, to go see his attorneys. And two, to have his little GPS unit serviced through the pretrial intervention people that can do that. So that's it. He's supposed to stay there. Now, of course, he sold his house, so it's going to be very interesting to see if the locals, so maybe all the locals that Julie got to meet when she was down there observing the preliminary hearing will, keep an eye out on old Barry down there. See if he goes back to the gym, maybe goes to his favorite little pizza place. I think he had a pizza place mentioned in the affidavit. And, we'll see. I mean, certainly if Barry's not around, people are going to know. Be interesting to see who he's going to stay with and where, what the arrangements are. But his daughters are certainly standing behind him. I'm assuming by now they've obviously sat through the preliminary hearing, so they heard that there was not marital bliss. But according to the affidavit, guess what? The daughters, at least one of them, knew that they were probably going to have a divorce coming, and basically thought it would be for the best. I mean, this is not a situation that is not uncommon. Once again, show of hands. Who's known a bunch of people that, once the kids are grown or getting off to college, that they get a divorce? Oh, yeah. They probably, they got married young, and, people change over time, and they're probably looking at each other saying, who the hell are you, and why do I even like you? But you don't go around, harming somebody if you don't want to be married to them. You do it the good old-fashioned way, which is you get a divorce. You take the debts, you take the assets, you split them down the middle, or you sell the assets to pay the debt, and boom, you're on your way. That's it. That's all you got to do. But you don't go around harming them. So Barry Morphew's on bond. Now, 3 types of bonds normally that people get, okay? First, a cash bond. And that is literally where somebody says, the judge will say, let's just use nice round numbers like Barry was given, $500,000 cash only. I think, I don't know this for sure, but $500,000 is a lot of money. A lot of money. Let alone come up with cash. And he had this announcement from the time that he was in court last Friday, right? Yes. And he was out Monday morning. So basically, they had time to post the bond over the weekend. Probably had to wait to get his GPS put on first thing Monday morning, and he was out. Ponying up certified funds, $500,000 cash. Now, I can tell you, the last time I've seen big cash bonds posted like that is usually people that like to distribute controlled substances. And their bond is big, and they just post it, and nobody has to worry about losing their house. Okay? Just saying. $500,000 is a lot of money. Now then you have a surety bond, okay? And let's say the judge, but he didn't in this case, he said cash only. But if it was $500 cash, property, or surety, let's talk about surety. A surety would be basically through a bail bondsman. What's a bail bondsman? He's the glorified insurance agent. What is a surety? It's an insurance company, okay? Insurance companies rule the world, ladies and gentlemen. You go to jail, you want to get out, they'll say, yeah, they'll take that bet, right? Because it's pretty secure. You're not going to disappear. But just in case, we're going to take 10% because we're going to have fees up front, and we got to pay the insurance man or woman, the bail bondsman. And so we're going to charge you 10%. So let's say on that $500,000 bond, you're going to have to come up with $50,000 for the premium. That's going to cover the fees, costs, because in the costs, where are they going to come? I mean, they're just going to post the bond, right? Does the insurance company actually post $500,000? No. They take what they call a power. It's a little piece of paper, and it says, hi, I'm the insurance company, and it says that I have a power to post this bond worth $500,000. And I'm an insurance company, and I have this power. I'm regulated through the state. Therefore, take my piece of paper. It's good. That's it. Get them out. I love when I have clients that get arrested. I can call up a bail bondsman. Boom, get them out because they have authority to write big bonds. They get them out. They take care of the paperwork afterwards, okay? But like I said, we got the fees. You got to come with $50,000. Now, insurance companies aren't fools, ladies and gentlemen. They have seen it all. They have seen it all. So they'll say, yeah, we'll take that risk for $500,000, but we're not going to do it just for $50,000. That's not enough. So we need collateral. So on that surety bond, the insurance company is going to say, we want $500,000 worth of collateral. Usually they want property. Why do they want property? Not easily disposed of. And then the insurance company can take their lien, their promise to pay, and record it so it's there. So if the defendant fails to show up for court and ultimately the insurance company, the bail bonds person, is ordered to pay that bond if somebody fails to appear, they can always sell the house and then use that money to pay the bond or to reimburse themselves. Normally they'll just pay the bill and they'll do that. And please understand, the courts don't want the people's money. They want the defendant. They want the defendant's body so that they can prosecute them and send them off to prison if they're convicted. So that's how the surety works. Hopefully that explained that well enough. Then you have a property bond where you can say cash, property, or surety. Now the catch is you can say, okay, here, fine, use my house. But we know Barry Morphew sold his house. We don't think he owns any property. To do a property bond, and I think I've only ever seen one or two of these ever done as a big bond. The reality of it is that it's a pain in the ass. That's really what it is. It's a pain because you have to get basically an appraisal, and normally it has to be worth 1.5 times the bond. So if it's a $500,000 bond, the house would have to appraise at $750,000. And then you have to do that, and it's not like assessed value, it's actual it's a pain. You might as well just go with the bail bondsman. They're like, hey, you got a house, good enough for me. You got some equity in it, we'll take it, okay? So that's where that goes. Now, what is the bond there to do? Bond is there to assure one's appearance at court, no greater than reasonably necessary to protect the community and assure that the defendant will appear in court. $500,000, that's a lot of money. But, I mean, think about it. Mr. Laundrie down there in Florida, do you think if he got arrested and he had a $500,000 bond, do you think his freedom would be worth that? Absolutely. Some people are like, give me a bond, I don't care, I'm going to run. They're going to run anyway. They'll just say, hey, it's money. It can be made again, be replaced, don't care. Most people won't do that because $500,000 is a lot of money. They don't want their family member who posted it to lose that money. And frankly, if you run, it makes you look bad, right, Mr. Laundrie? That's correct. At least Barry Morphew can say he stayed in the county for the longest time. It wasn't until almost a year later that he was moving out. You know, I think one can say that's probably enough time to grieve, right? That's what they're shooting for. So, if Barry Morphew, assuming he attends all court appearances, and whether he is convicted or he is acquitted, the person that posted that bond will get all of their money back. If he's convicted, sometimes they'll take some court costs out of it, but it's rather nominal compared to the $500,000 bond. And the person that posted the bond would have to consent to those fees coming off the top, so to speak. So, yeah, hopefully that explains the 3 types of bonds that are available. All right, I have talked way too long. Let me take a look at the questions. Now, people have questions. A couple people did super chats. Appreciate that. Don't ask for those, but certainly don't mind, and they do certainly help. They do certainly help. Okay, question here. Good question, Don. This goes back to Mr. Laundrie down in Florida. Scott, is a lawyer required to state that he has had contact with a missing person not necessarily what was said or where they are. No attorney-client privilege. I'm of the belief that the attorney should not disclose any of that information, particularly if it would be detrimental to the client. It's a communication to the attorney that should not be revealed unless the client would have given the attorney consent to do that. And sometimes I doubt the attorney would. Sometimes court, when a client fails to appear, will ask you, well, do you have any idea where your client may be, Mr. Reich? And, normally the case is I have no idea, Your Honor. I have no idea. I don't know. So court then issues a warrant, and that's it. And we send a letter off to the last known address saying, hey, you missed your court date. You need to get yourself turned in because you don't want to get pulled over for a traffic stop. Normally you try to call your client. I know my office has a policy. It's like your dentist office. We call the night before just to confirm your court appearance, right? Communicate via email, text, whatever it takes to make sure people are there. And it's funny, when we started doing this, talking like 18 years ago, instead of just saying, here's your letter, here's your next court date, see you next time, we started calling them beforehand the night before. The FTAs went way down for obvious reasons. The people, it jogged their memory. Let's see here. Bimama Bebo. Hey, Scott, please respond to my message on Patreon. I will take a look at that. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I just sent it to you on your email. It's kind of odd.
Okay, apparently it's been sent to my email. I'll take a look at it. Maybe I'll do it on the Patreon. Let's see here. Kay. Yes, Scott, insurance companies rule the world, not the government. People should look into it. They would see. Ex-small business owner. I've seen the light. Yeah, insurance companies rule the world. You want to get business insurance, you do what they tell you to do. Bottom line. And if you want it and they think you're a risk, you pay big bucks for it. They run the world. I didn't realize this. I knew it was there. You're in business, you do what you got to do to have all your business insurance coverage, but you just don't think about it. And then I thought, when I was, buying an airplane years ago, they're like, oh, you could buy that, but guess what? You don't have enough time. This is early on. Like, you'll never get insurance for it. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm a pilot. I got my light. I can buy whatever the hell I want. I can pass my check ride, do whatever I need to do, get a type rating. Like, oh yeah, you can buy it, but no one's going to insure you. So basically you'd have to insure yourself. And obviously you don't want that. What if there's an accident or whatever? But the reality of it is that's you have to do what the insurance companies do. The FAA doesn't care, basically, as long as you're licensed and proficient and in time and have your type rating for a particular plane, they don't care. But the insurance companies would be like, ooh, you didn't do this, this, and this. Yeah, we're not going to cover you. All right. Insurance company is nothing but gambling. It's like the stock market. It's legalized gambling. Insurance companies that say, you know what? I'll take that bet. And we'll put a little money off to the side. It's like the VIGs. They're going to make their money either way. They set aside for claims. Oop, all those claims didn't come through. Good to go. Oops, big hurricane comes through, wipes out everybody. They pay out a lot of money. Then they say, well, state, we can't go broke. You got to give us more money. So they let everybody increase their rates even more. And think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Anywhere, anytime, has anyone ever said, whenever they said, we're going to implement tort reform, right? For those evil, nasty, personal injury attorneys who are out there just, taking insurance companies' money for no reason at all, right? Not true. Not true at all. And they pass and they say, you know what? Yeah, if you get both your legs cut off, boy, that's too bad. And you can get some, economic damages, but the emotional distress, we're going to cap that at maybe $250,000. Have you ever seen your insurance rates go down? I can't recall a single time where mine have ever gone down. So don't believe the hype, ladies and gentlemen. let's see here. If he dies by someone, then the court's fault. They should have listened to God's instruction and held him safe from the Avengers. Yeah, I don't think anything's going to happen to Barry Morphew. I don't think so. He's not going around. He's committed, ladies and gentlemen. He is committed to proclaiming his innocence. It's going to take something of great significance for him to change his mind and state, oh yeah, I'll plead guilty. I'll go to prison for, probably 48 years. And it's interesting. We get people to send us tips, and sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's not so good stuff. And you kind of wait and see. You think, wow, I could be the first one to come out with this. But we like to deal with facts. People are like, oh, good information that, Morphew's going to plead guilty. And I want to believe him. I think, okay, great. But I just don't see it. I'm telling you, I have had clients of charges like this where the evidence will look overwhelming. But if they have family members on their side, unless they just have somehow said, you're right, I've done it, I need to confess my sins, they're going to trial. They're going to the mat on this thing. And that's what I would expect. And we'll just have to wait and see. The joy catcher, maybe he'll do something foolish that will lead us to find Suzanne and put him behind bars again. Now remember, when you're on bond, obviously one of the conditions of bond is that you not commit any new law violations. Usually that means anything more serious than a 6-point speeding offense. So, normally if you get somebody on bond, they pick up a new case, the DA will file a motion to revoke the bond. And then that person loses that money, $500,000 of it, and then they have to repost the bond. At that point, it gets really expensive. So, yeah. Mom Ping, hey there, I made it tonight. Let's see here. Okay, Barbara Green. See, this is what I'm talking about. Heard on another crime show that the prosecution is working on cutting a deal with Barry for maybe 10 years. What do you say with that? I heard this. I mean, I hate to say it, ladies and gentlemen. I have heard and seen of channels that make stuff up to get views. Okay? And I had people sending me similar stuff. I don't believe it. I simply do not believe it. The prosecution's case is not that strong. They have no body in this particular case. The court has already found that basically, hey, theirs is not proof evident presumption great. Okay? And I'm trying to think, every case that I've had that proof evident presumption great was not found in a homicide trial. I'm trying to think of my cases. I think they were all not guilties or dismissals because it's not proof. If you can't make proof evident presumption great, you're going to have a heck of a time trying to get to proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And to sit here and say, oh, he's going to take 10 years? Really? Why? He's maintained his innocence. He's not going to say, oh, fine, I'll go do 10 years. Because what would he plead guilty to? Menacing? No, that would only be 1 to 3 years. Criminally negligent homicide? That'd be a class 4. That'd only be 2 to 6 years. He'd have to agree to something outside of that. Why would he do that? His family's on his side. His daughter's on his side. He said he didn't do it. It's not the strongest case in the world. Barry Morphew is going to fight this case to the end. And maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe he'll walk into court and cut a deal. I don't think so. And guess what? If somebody's saying that somebody said it, guess what? My first question is, who said it? And what authority do they have to repeat it? Okay? That could be a wish list. Well, maybe we get him 10 years. What has he got, the voting thing? Okay. Maybe just describe. Listen, if you charge somebody with first-degree murder, you better not. The prosecution, I think, has an ethical obligation to dismiss if they don't think they can prove that. And then to say, well, we'll take anything, take 10 years or something. I mean, come on. First of all, we don't even know that happened. But I think that's unethical. Just plead guilty to something so, it looks like we got something out of the case. I don't see that. Barry Morphew, he's 50, 51 years old. I'd have to look his date. I think he was 69 or 70 he was born. So he's 50 to 52 in that area there. If he were to be found guilty, obviously life without parole, he would die in prison. Second degree murder. Some sort of hey, I just lost it and killed her. Sorry about that. 16 to 48 minimum. Probably going to get 48. He's going to die in prison. He's not going to take any of those plea deals. So I would take that with a very jaundiced eye, unless the district attorney is out there saying, I am extending a formal offer of 10 years to Barry Morphew. Then color me suspicious, okay? I could start a rumor right now, but I'm not going to do that because we like to talk about facts and not rumor. Don't get me wrong. Every now and then we like to talk about a little bit of rumor, but guess what? Not when it comes to people's lives, not when it comes to people's reputation. We can't do that. We got to be fact driven. We have to be able to make sure we're getting it right. Sure, we can talk about in the big picture, wouldn't it be nice? I don't believe it. Be skeptical of anyone out there that's saying that, somebody's going to plead guilty. Believe it when the court accepts the plea. Until then, it is undocumented, unsupported rumor and not worth the piece of paper it's not written on. So if they're claiming some unknown source, be very skeptical of that, because I could get out there and say, I heard it from somebody that he's going to do this. What's he going to do, Scott? Oh, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you, but it's going to be good. But it could involve something, but I won't say. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we have a very smart audience. They're not going to be fooled by a bunch of clickbait stuff. What can Barry do out on bail for the benefit of his case that he couldn't do in jail? Well, first of all, he can save a lot of money, right? Because if you got to have the attorneys drive up 4 hours from Denver to go sit in a jail cell to go over discovery, that gets expensive. They got hotel rooms, etc. So now he can go to them. He can talk on the phone when he wants to. He can go to their office. It saves a lot of money. They can review the documents. They can go over it. They can prepare at their own pace versus trying to do things at the jail at night. You ever tried to prepare for trial at jail at night? It sucks, okay? Cramped little space, quarters. You're hot. It's tired. A jail always has that smell. People know what it's called. It's that smell of baloney and fear all wrapped up into one. It's just always there. Maybe with a little bit of bleach because they clean the place. I mean, a jail can be one of the quickest places to spread germs around. So literally they have, trusty inmates clean it. And then when they get done cleaning the hallway, let's say, for example, they start cleaning it again because they got nothing else to do. They got plenty of time and plenty of bleach to clean away. So, yeah, it makes a big difference when you're out. And guess what? He can show up to all his court appearances not in a little jail suit, not coming behind the magic door in handcuffs. You're at liberty. You're free. Your hands, you don't have to ask the sheriff to unbuckle you so you can take notes. You get to have time with your lawyers, time with your family. That's what he can do. So it makes a big deal. Why do you care what they MH? Why do you care what they wear? We please cover Kristen Smart's case tomorrow. Judges expect a rule on Paul and Ruben Flores' preliminary hearing. Sure, we can take a look at the Kristen Smart case tomorrow. Obviously, that's a case that was cold case, 20 some odd years, I think it was. She disappears, and it turns out they charge the old I wouldn't say boyfriend, but the guy that kind of was last seen with her coincidentally, and then the dad for trying to help cover it up. Oh, good. I love this comment. This is from Lydia. Scott, just wanted to say I'm an insurance broker, and I couldn't agree more with you. I think I hate insurance more than anyone I know. I'm just really good at it. I understand, Lydia. I've had a couple of weeks as it relates to the practice of law where I literally, in the last couple of weeks, have literally thought, you know what? Done. You know, you try to help people. You try to make sure you give them, great representation at a reasonable price, trying to protect their constitutional rights. And no matter what you do, you're not going to make everybody happy. I get that. But when you don't follow my advice and what I tell you is going to happen happens, don't come back and blame me. I told you not to do what you did. But nobody, not anybody, accepts responsibility for anything. I mean, it's very rare. And there's sometimes nothing more refreshing than a client. You say, hey, here's the options. We can do this. We can file this motion and try to do this. Or you can just plead guilty. No cooperation, no this, boom, boom, boom. And it's the most refreshing when the client says, you know what? I did it. I'll just plead guilty. I don't want to cooperate. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to plead guilty, take my lumps, whatever happens. That can be the most refreshing thing. But there's some clients out there that are, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to do anything that's going to get me in trouble. Let's just say some people can be rather manipulative. Fortunately for me, after 26 years, I have seen the best. I have represented and seen some of the most manipulative con men you've ever seen. I can spot them a mile away. And I know how to prepare for them too. It's why you spend most of your days as a lawyer. They don't tell you this in law school. Okay, everybody thinks they go to law school. They're going to be researching and arguing briefs before the Supreme Court, running to court, blah, 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 blah. No, it's like doctors do these days. You spend a ton of your time confirming the advice that you're giving so that when you say go do option A and the client does option B and you told them, well, why would you do option B? I told you don't do option B. He said, well, yeah, but, I Googled it. I had a buddy, and it turned out okay for him when he did option B. Okay. Well, maybe your buddy can represent you now. And then you think, oh, that's right. Your buddy's not an attorney. Oh, yeah. The biggest hindrance to, and the biggest scariest thing, as I think as it relates to the practice of law, and I'm not talking just criminal law, it's Google, all right? Just like WebMD turned everybody into a hypochondriac, that they're all dying from cancer or, whatever's going on. That is what the legal profession has done. Google. I saw a coffee mug once that said, don't replace or substitute your Google search with my law degree or experience in the law. Frankly, the law degree doesn't mean that much. It's the experience of what people are paying for. That's what they're getting. Nancy wants to know a question, and she wanted to know and answer this question here by Super Chat. Thank you, Nancy. Scott, if the state's case is not strong, why is it going to trial? Is there a strong possibility he will get acquitted? Well, Nancy, nobody can actually predict what is going to take place at trial, okay? But I'm telling you, if the case was overwhelming, the judge would have found proof evident presumption great, which is basically saying everybody knows this in the room, you did it. Okay? And that's basically maybe not to the level of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, but it's pretty darn close. And so when you don't get that proof evident presumption great, the DA's got to start thinking like, what's going on here? Okay? Recently had a case, no proof evident presumption great. Guess what? Great deal. Great deal. Why? They knew there was problems with the case. Now the DA, she's newly elected down there. You just got to watch what people are going to do. You just have to be very, very careful. Nobody can predict what you're going to do at trial. I have won cases that I should have lost, and I have lost cases that I thought I was going to win. Okay? I had a case once, still breaks my heart. Homicide case, totally believe self-defense. To this day, self-defense. The DA put up one of their investigators, and I got him to agree that if somebody was coming at you I picked up the deadly weapon and said, would you defend yourself if somebody would come at you with a deadly weapon? Their own witness, their own expert said, I would have shot him. Boom. It was one of those moments like, done, case over, right? But the jury came back, not with first, but a lesser. And it just still to this day breaks my heart. The DAs were literally saying we lost during deliberations. They're like, yeah, we lost. And then the jury came back to a lesser charge. And it's just like, oh my gosh. But that's what happens when you go to trial. Could Barry Morphew be convicted? Yes. Do I think the evidence is overwhelming? No. Could he be convicted? Yes. It depends on the jury that they get. All right. Let's see if I can answer this question that somebody sent me here. Apparently it was sent to okay. Is it Rabia? Okay. I'm sorry about your son's incident. If you would like to send me the video, I can certainly take a look at it. I cannot tell you that I would be able to represent somebody because I'm not licensed in the state of California, but I would certainly be more than happy to help you find an attorney to handle the case. Hopefully that answers your question. I can't, can't promise you, but I'll certainly take a look. You can just send it, Julie. If you just email them my law firm, I think that'd be great. Let's see here. Request here from Chrissy. I just found out that the Chandra Levy's case is unsolved again. The man convicted released from a 60-year sentence. Can you please talk about that case one day soon? I'll be more than happy to take a look at the Chandra Levy case and do something about it real soon. Jackson, DNA on dart cap in the dryer wasn't Barry's. It was Suzanne's and daughter. Also, how can DNA still be on it if it has been washed and dried? Good question, Jackson, or Joe Jackson, Jackson Joe. They found it. If you pick something up, I mean, listen, just because something is in your house, even if it's been dried, if you dump another load in there and you don't know it's there, from, let's say, your sheets get in there, your clothes, your DNA, dry skin, hair, follicles fall off, could be there. There's lots of ways. When they find DNA in your house, that is not shocking to me. Okay? I would expect if somebody came into my house and swabbed my house that they would find things with my DNA on it. Okay? And I could probably explain how anything got there in my house. Bottom line. Let's just see. Why am I... Oh, yeah, Chandra Levy. That was the case about she was like an intern or something, and she was kind of maybe... There was a congressman that she was dating. Don't get me started into politicians and illicit affairs with young ladies. Yeah, we'll take a look at that as well. I think it was the Condit. That was the guy's name, Condit. He was working for her. They found her remains. Prime suspect. Looks like there's questions regarding the star witnesses possibly perjuring themselves, things like that. All right, let's see. Somebody said good point. Let's see who that. All right, wow. Already over an hour. It goes by so fast. Coming outside. I want to wipe it off. Yeah. Yeah, that video of him coming outside. Although he looks like he's aged a little bit, doesn't he? And looks like he's lost a little bit of body mass. I wonder what caused that. Oh. Yeah. Gabby. Yep, they found Gabby's remains. We talked about that when we first came on. Manor death was homicide, but thank you, Mary. We talked about that when we first came on. We actually put up the press release from there. All right, well, you know what time it is? It's time to end our Crime Talk live show this evening. But wait, if you want more, become a Patreon, and you can get the little magic link, and we will be able to continue the conversation. But the Patreon is even better because why? Well, we got the Magic 8 Ball, first of all. Got the Magic 8 Ball. We'll ask the Magic 8 Ball the question. We've got the new high-speed, low-drag Magic 8 Ball. And then we have the old, time-tested, and true Magic 8 Ball. And we usually have all of the Patrons come up with general consensus of the question that we should ask. And, I think tonight we're probably going to ask a question about old Mr. Laundry. Do you think he got eaten by gators, or do you think he got a 4-day head start because of his parents giving him a jump on the FBI? I wonder if his attorney said anything. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Russ, I bet you hit the tanning bed today. No, Russ, don't go tanning. I've had more basal cell cancer cut out of me on my face, hands, arm, back. We don't go anywhere near a tanning bed, okay? I do love the sun, but when I go outside, I protect myself and cover myself. So sorry to disappoint you there, Russ. No tanning bed today, okay? Nope, we try to avoid it. My dermatologist, whenever time I go to the dermatologist, I just say, okay, how many things are we cutting out today? That's it. So, all right, let's go to, let's end this evening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining, everybody. Let's see how, wow, we had like 1,600 people join us. That's great. Thank you all very much. We appreciate you taking the time. We know that you have lots of important things you could do. So the fact that you came to spend time with us does not go unappreciated. I assure you that. So on behalf of Julie and Frank and myself, thank you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk, and we'll see the rest of you over at Patreon in just a few minutes.